State of Affairs is pleased to welcome our good friend Alfred Doblin, editorial page editor at The Record. Also check his stuff out on northjerseymedia.com. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
We are taping this in the summer of 2017. We have a huge race for governor, one of only two in the nation, New Jersey and Virginia. Why does it matter, Alfred?
Well, obviously, we need a governor, and there's a lot of dissatisfaction with the current governor. I mean, is it 15%, I think, is the latest approval rating? So there's an opportunity now, I think, for someone new to come in, and the first thing they need to say is, you know, I care about you. This is not a stepping stone to be somewhere else. And I think that's at least an interesting dynamic, that no one gets the feeling that Kim Guadagno wants to run for president, or that Phil Murphy wants to run for president, or wants to be Secretary of the Treasury in a couple of years if there's a change in the White House. So I think the first thing that's really important for both candidates and for voters is to have a sense that whoever you're going to elect as governor actually wants to be the governor completely for the next 4 years.
But Alfred, while in some cases people like yourself and others may argue it's a lot about Chris Christie or what happens beyond him, these candidates have to stand on their own, and both of them sat right where you are right now here on State of Affairs. And talked about specific issues. They have to decide and have to tell people how they're going to deal with the pension crisis, how they're going to deal with school funding, how they're going to deal with property taxes. Let's take the pension crisis. Tens of billions of dollars in debt. Kim Guadagno, Phil Murphy, where do they stand?
Well, when Guadagno met with our editorial board, you know, she was talking about wanting to, you know, get all the sides together and have this conversation. And, you know, and that's nice. You know, I like kumbaya. I'm sure you like kumbaya. I'm not sure, and this is true of both of them, that unless you do something radical, that was the thing that Assemblyman Cettarelli, you know, he was talking about, you know, we need to have this sort of three-tier system. You know, when new people come in, we'll have
new public employees come in. They have one deal. Those who have been there for a while
have some protection, and then those who have been there forever, you know, have their existing pension. Not an easy sell. Huge lift. Neither Guadagno or Murphy are talking about that. You know, Murphy pretty much is sort of saying, I want to leave everything the way it is. He's open to conversation, you know, to change it, but he doesn't want to make a radical change. Not on the pension.
Guadagno, bold?
No, neither are bold.
But does the pension need a bold solution? I mean, the state, listen, to be fair to the governor, Governor Christie, more money, state money into the public employee pension fund than many governors before him put together.
Correct.
Not nearly enough.
Right.
But where would the other money come from?
Well, that's the problem. I mean, because you have, you know, you have Murphy talking about, you know, pre-K expansion, and ultimately he wants free state school, community college free,
yes.
which is great. I mean, New York State, Cuomo is doing actually more than that, but there aren't the revenues for that. And that would be the same thing with Guadagno, is that they haven't identified new revenue sources. They don't want to, no one wants to talk about, you know, well, we're going to institute all these other taxes to make this happen. So I don't see bold on the pension. Now, what may happen if, say, Murphy became governor, there might be more of a conversation. It's possible.
With public employees because they're supportive of him right now?
Yes, and that you'll have all these Democrats on the same page. Now, whether all these Democrats on the same page would be willing to tinker with what is their traditional base, also because many of them resent what they gave
in the 2011 deal?
Yeah.
Because what we're really talking about, I know we're into the weeds here, folks, but what we're talking about is a question of whether public employees would renegotiate, or the state would renegotiate public employee contracts. Murphy said here, no. It's off the table.
See, and I think, I mean, we endorsed Cettarelli. I think Cettarelli was the most honest and the most bold, and he couldn't win. So what is that?
I'm not even going to go there. So what that really means is those who put out really bold plans that call for sacrifice and pain, real potential solutions, harder politically. Let's talk property taxes. How much more can the state give to certain communities to deal with property taxes? This thing has been the #1 issue forever in the state. Murphy and Guadagno.
Well, I didn't hear a great, well, Guadagno's big idea is this circuit breaker. and where if your property taxes rise to a certain percentage of what your income is, then there's some kind of there'll be some kind of kickback in terms of how your taxes.
Kickback. This is Jersey. Watch it.
Yeah. Well,
you mean illegal?
Yeah.
Something comes back to you.
Right. In the form of a diner voucher. It's a voucher.
Okay. Yeah. See, now you're going to go all Jersey on me, right?
Yeah.
And so, what about that?
How do you pay for it? I mean, and I don't understand how you pay for it. And I think, not to sound, and this would sound kind of Republican, the issue isn't, I think, to give taxpayers more money. It's to figure out how do they pay less. And the real underpinning, to the property tax issue is school funding. And
Let's deal with that right now. Right now, as we're talking, there's literally, it's right before the state budget is supposed to be agreed upon. We don't even know if there's going to be a state budget. We pray that July 1st there is one, because if not, the government's going to shut down. State Senate President Steve Sweeney, the Assembly Speaker Vincent Prieto have a plan. They want to shift some of the money around to some of the communities that have been getting a shaft for a long time, take some money away from even some urban districts, Jersey City, Hoboken, and others, who many have argued are getting overfunded by the state, you say?
In theory, what they're saying isn't bad. We editorialized that it's a smart first step. No one knows what Governor Christie is going to do with this plan that came out first by press release, I think 6 p.m. or so on Thursday, announcement on Friday. I'm always wary about these 6 o'clock announcements, because if you've got something happy to say, you just say it. But that noted, the plan is sort of funded for the first year. There's like $100 million that's coming from other sources that you can maneuver money in the budget.
What about the second year?
It's anybody's guess. So what happens? Because some of the concern with the School Reform Act, something, I'm missing another thing.
Doesn't matter.
Was that there was a portion of the way the funding was set up that was meant to be temporary. It was never meant to go on forever. And
so excuse me, Alfred, what happens if if a public school district gets attached to those state dollars and the next year it's not there?
Well, you got a problem. You got New Jersey, Steve. That's, you'll have a formula that no longer works. So where will the money come from? I think it is absolutely essential that districts like a Hoboken that was once a special needs or so-called Abbott district.
Now there's a lot of development there.
They've got a lot of development. They don't need the same kind of funding. I think the fact that these aid is capped so that if your district now has 3,000 more students and another district has 1,000 fewer students, your aid should change. So that part of it needs to happen. But there's not a lot of process beyond it.
For the limited time we have left, the other issues that matter in this election for governor are?
Infrastructure. Someone's going to have to do something about the crumbling infrastructure. Certainly
New Jersey Transit as well?
Well, North Jersey Transit is terribly underfunded. It doesn't have real leadership. As a commuter who uses every system in this area, I think people need leadership, but they need real money. They need money.
And finally, also the healthcare situation. We don't really know what's going to happen in Washington. And New Jersey, as a state, is going to have to deal with what Washington does, particularly if people are thrown off the health insurance rolls, right?
Right. I think, though, both Guadagno and Murphy do not want to see any shrinkage of what we do in terms of Medicaid. So I would at least say that my impression of both of them is that they will, I think, try to protect what we do for New Jerseyans equally.
Alfred Doblin is the editorial page editor at The Record. Check him out also online at northjerseymedia.com. Alfred, thank you so much for putting things in perspective.
Thank you.
Come back again in the fall, and we'll try to make sense of what's really happening closer to the election. Stay with us. State of Affairs will be right back, right after this.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the CAUCUS Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Agnes Veris NJTV studio at 2 Gateway. Funding has been provided by the New Jersey Office of the Insurance Fraud Prosecutor, New Jersey Council of County Colleges, Valley National Bank, JFK Medical Center, the New Jersey Association of Health Underwriters, New Jersey Sharing Network, and by the New Jersey Reentry Corporation. Promotional support provided by New Jersey Monthly, the magazine of the Garden State, available at newsstands, and by Commerce Magazine.